Good evening and welcome to Trending Tonight. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. The one story that all of us are tracking since the morning and needs to be tracked and understood well is the UK strain of the coronavirus. Within days of approving the vaccine use, the United Kingdom now struggles with a new COVID mutation. India too has banned travel to and from the United Kingdom. Now with virus and its mutations, remember, information is always and always key. So join us in this journey. Arm yourself with everything you need to know about this COVID-19 mutation. The UK strain explained right here on Trending Tonight. Now before we begin, here is a simple explainer with the help of graphical interface that my colleague Vishnu Som has put down all the relevant information that you need to understand what is this new strain.
With a transmission rate of 70%, the new mutant strain of COVID-19 revealed first on the 14th of December in the United Kingdom represents one of the biggest global challenges since the virus went global almost a year back. Now, it's not that mutations in viruses are uncommon. In fact, there are hundreds of mutations to COVID already. But what we are seeing here are not just a large number of mutations, but mutations in the spike protein. What is that? That governs entry into human cells, and the impact seems clear. What you'll now see is a graph of the United Kingdom from the 1st of October to the 18th of December. Now, the blue bars are the original COVID virus. But as you can see, there is a jump in the so-called S gene variant. Now, this mutation has been detected in Denmark, Australia, Italy, and the Netherlands, countries which carry out sequencing of the virus much more regularly than other countries. Now, this is important because without sequencing, we don't really know how widespread the new strain is. Remember, a standard RT-PCR test throws up COVID, not the type of strain. And it's not just the United Kingdom. South Africa is also reporting a new aggressive strain. It is different from the UK one, but now is also surging among new infections. Worried at the prospect of an altogether new threat emerging, a parting shot, if you will, from 2020, more than 30 countries, including India, have invoked travel bans. And at the moment, there is only hope to rely on. But while it is believed that the new vaccines will protect us from the new mutation, we still don't know that for sure. According to Dr. Siddharth Mukherjee, one of the finest writers on illness in the human body, if one of these strains was to become resistant to the vaccine, then the entire effort to vaccinate will become moot.
So what do experts feel about this? I have Dr. Randeep Guleria, Director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences with me. Dr. Guleria, good evening and welcome. How concerned should we be?
So I think whenever we have a new strain of a virus which suggests that it has mutated, and this strain has had 17 mutations, and one of them is at the spike protein, there is a cause of concern that we need to have. It may just be possible that this correlation is by chance, but still I think we have to be very cautious, because especially in countries like India, where we have now seeing a consistent downward trend, we don't want anything to sort of upset the balance and have an increase in the number of cases. So it's something that we need to watch very, very carefully.
Dr. Guleria, in your understanding, how different is this virus from the way we knew the earlier virus?
So viruses are known to mutate, and they tend to mutate, and we know that this virus has mutated to some extent, although not to an extent which has led it to be more infectious or causing more severe disease till this mutation was observed. And when this mutation was observed, the surprising thing was that 17 mutations were noticed in this the genomic sequence, and one of them was at the level at the spike protein, which is what the virus uses to attach to the human cells and enter the human cell, and is also part of what is used for the vaccine production. So this was a cause of concern. What was observed in the UK was that, especially in London and the southeast part of London, there was an increasing number of cases. And when they did genetic sequencing of samples from that area, they also observed that this variant was much more prevalent there. This was already been reported in September that there was a variation or a new strain which was there. But then the correlation that was found was that in areas where this was dominant, there was an increase in number of cases. So that is the cause of concern, that this may be a more infectious strain which is spreading more rapidly in the community. But if you look at the data that they have shown, it has not shown an increase in hospitalization or deaths in that area. So we need more data before we can say that this strain is also causing, is more virulent, causing more severe infection. But definitely the data that has been shown by the UK government, or what has been shown in the what is available, suggests that it does cause, is more infectious and tends to spread more rapidly.
Dr. Guleria, then is that the reason that explains, and that is why it becomes more important to take dramatic and drastic steps, maybe like travel ban, which India considered today?
So whenever there's a new mutation, there's always a cause of concern for basically 3 or 4 things. One is it more infectious, and will it enter into a new area where we have a large number of individuals who are still susceptible to the infection, and will that rapidly spread? And whatever effort that has been done over the past many months, including the lockdown, will go to waste, because now we have a new strain which is spreading very rapidly, as has been seen in parts of UK and in Europe. So that is one concern. The second concern is, has this actually is it causing more severe infection in the hospitalization? Will it cause a more burden on our healthcare infrastructure? And of course, will it have an effect on the vaccine? So I think it's really being more cautious and safe before data emerges regarding all these 3 parameters. And that is why, as a precautionary measure, many governments have taken this step to really buy time to some extent. We must also accept the fact that this is a virus which is spreading. This variant has been there since September. So it's not that it will not come to other parts of the world. But if we can delay that to some extent till such time that we have more knowledge about it, there's more data, we may be able to act in a better manner.
Okay. Dr. Guleria, now let's talk about the vaccines. Can existing vaccines help against this strain, or will we have to start afresh?
So it depends on what is the mutation and where exactly the mutation has happened. Is it happening at the site which is targeted, where the vaccine is effective and which has been targeted as far as vaccine development is concerned? As of now, whatever data we have suggests that it is not really affecting the site where the vaccine has been targeted. That is the spike protein, except for one variation which this variant has at the N501Y site. But it seems that this is only in one localized area, and the vaccine produces neutralizing antibodies at multiple sites, and therefore should be effective as of now. But like I said, we need more data to be really sure that the efficacy of the vaccine is not compromised. It doesn't seem so right now, and we will need to see the data that emerges, especially from UK, because they're already vaccinating there. So in the group that have been vaccinated and who get exposed to this new strain, what is the neutralizing antibodies and how do they work against this new strain? That data should emerge quickly, and that will give us more confidence that this new strain will also the vaccine will be effective against this new strain also.
Sure. But Dr. Guleria, given the propensity of viruses generally to mutate, I mean, this is something which is not hidden from medical science. Shouldn't vaccine candidates factor this in?
Definitely. So vaccine developers keep this in mind and then try and factor it in, but it's not always possible. For example, we have an influenza vaccine which is available, and that is another respiratory virus. But the virus every year undergoes what we call an antigen drift. It changes itself a little bit, and the efficacy of the vaccine falls. And that's why for influenza, we have to have an annual vaccine. Every year one has to get a flu shot, because the virus changes within a year and the efficacy of the vaccine comes down. COVID-19 doesn't change that rapidly as influenza does, but it does mutate. And that is why we will have to see how things work in the next few months, because as we start rolling out the vaccine, it also puts an excessive strain on the virus to really develop or mutate so as to sort of be able to propagate itself and be able to work in a manner that the vaccine may become less effective. So I think in the coming months, not only will we have to vaccinate people, we will have to keep seeing how the virus is behaving in areas where the people are being vaccinated so that it's not mutating. And if it does mutate, the vaccine will have to change accordingly.
Now that's important because you drew a parallel with the influenza vaccine. You think, Dr. Guleria, going forward, vaccines for the coronavirus could be recurring in nature? Is this, according to you, in the realm of possibility?
So it is in the realm of possibility, especially in the early part of for the first few years, because we will have to see how things evolve, how the virus evolves. Unlike influenza, COVID-19 doesn't mutate so much, so it's possible that it may not have to be that frequently. The vaccine frequency may not have to be annual, but we may have to give it to some extent. It will also depend how the pandemic pans out. If the number of cases comes down significantly and we are able to control it efficiently, then we may not need to vaccinate that frequently. So these are very important issues which will emerge next year as we roll out the vaccine and we start seeing how the virus behaves once people start getting vaccinated, and in terms of the protection it offers and the mutation that happens in the virus.
All right, my final question, Dr. Guleria, before we let you go, what would your advice be to those in a state of panic after the news of this new strain has come out? There are many.
So I think the advice is that we still need to understand that while we have treatment strategies, while the vaccine is being rolled out, the gold standard to protect us currently is COVID appropriate behavior. Wear your masks properly, have physical distancing.
That's the only vaccine.
Hand sanitization. No matter what be the variation in the virus, these three things will protect you no matter what be the mutation that happens. So till we get a better hold in terms of the vaccine, in terms of decreasing the number of cases, we should not have any laxity in these measures, because they will still be very, very effective.
All right, Dr. Guleria, appreciate you and thank you so much for joining us right here on NDTV. Let's now also introduce Professor Polly Roy, Professor of Virology at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Professor Roy, thank you so much for joining us right here on NDTV. My first question, what is your reading of the new strain?
I look at it is not to worry too much about it. That's what I was telling you, because this is just a sequence they have done, and RNA virus is always changing anyway. I think that we need to have proper evidence that it is dangerous or anything, nothing like that so far. As far as I can see, there's nothing to be so worried about.
Oh, wow.
We go a little bit too much over the top here. Out of proportion, but in the cautiousness. But as a virologist, I can assure you there's no evidence yet that it is dangerous or transmitting very fast, nothing like that.
Yeah, but you know,
it's only speculation and due to the sequence. But sequence doesn't tell you always everything about the viral pathogenicity or actually transmissions or neutralizations. Immune system, nothing tells you that. It just gives you some kind of indication, that's all.
But you know, I agree, and it's very nice that you say what you do, but there is a cause of genuine worry because you're dealing with an invisible and unknown enemy, and you don't know how it's going to actually mutate. But can the existing vaccines help, Professor Roy?
Absolutely. So far, there is not any changes that we know. Because this drift, little bit change here, little bit change there, doesn't mean much at all. And because the vaccine is developed with a whole protein, and there are many, many epitopes, not only one or two or not in one position, it's only that you can concentrate. So the whole protein they are looking into. All the vaccines so far developed, the RNA-based and the adenovirus, they are all perfectly good still. No problem on that.
Professor, you are sounding extremely optimistic, but then in that case, why are governments going for, and there is a view that one must not do this because the world over governments are struggling to keep their economy afloat. Do you think that lockdown and travel bans now will be an effective way to stop new strains? This is not the first, this is probably not going to be the last as well.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think that vaccine, as fast as we can make the vaccine, give to people existing vaccine that's allowed now, it'll be fine. We'll be all fine. But I think that this transmission, they're talking about making something new type of virus, new type of infection. There is absolutely no evidence about that yet. Scientific evidence is all speculations based on the gene sequence, but one has to actually look into that exactly. What does it do exactly when it goes in the people? So, for instance, if you take the infected, vaccinated or infected blood serum, and then see that whether it will neutralize this new virus or not neutralize, I'm absolutely sure it will neutralize the new variant as well as the old virus. So we are fine, nothing to worry so much as far as vaccine concerned, definitely. But of course we have to be cautious. We have to keep our distance. We have to not getting panicky about it and closing down everything and making chaos in the whole world. That is just gone too far.
Well, maybe you may want to tell your government that, and also governments the world over who are banning flights. And I think they're taking abundant precaution. Those were the words used by the Indian government. But I think, Professor Roy, these words are going to bring about a lot of relief among those concerned, don't you think? And there are quite a plenty.
It is not the way they made it out of it, because if every day any virus that we work with, RNA virus, they're changing little bit. That doesn't mean that it's changed so much that it's going to make a real problem for everything. And particularly this one, they should not have probably put it in that context. The gene is changing, particularly is making monster virus. There's absolutely no evidence, absolutely none in a virological point of view. So I will wait for that and keep the way we are keeping now. We are already very cautious. Every country is very cautious. I know India is very cautious because I have all my family there. I know how they are doing. There's no need for any more extra things to impose, really.
All right. Professor Roy, thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps these words are going to soothe some frayed nerves, but everyone's concerned because we are dealing with an unpredictable monster, and that is why this is only an action in abundant caution. And those were the words used by the Indian government as well. Dr. Isaac Bogoch now joins us, infectious diseases physician and scientist based out of the University of Toronto. Thank you very much, Dr. Bogoch. My first question, would you like to weigh in and tell us how much do we know about this new strain, and according to you, how worrying it is?
Yeah, we don't actually know that much. We certainly know what the genetics are and what the changes have been to the virus. But I think there's some big unanswered questions. One of them is it really that much more transmissible? The second one is, does it cause a more severe infection? And the third one is, will the vaccine work as well on this strain?
Correct.
Now, many of these are still unanswered questions, but currently, some people believe that it actually is more transmissible, although we really have to see some better evidence to confirm that. Most people don't believe that this will cause a more severe illness. And it's unlikely, I've got to be careful with my words, unlikely that this will impact how the vaccine will perform. But again, these are still unanswered questions, and I think it's best to be careful. And that's what we're seeing manifested in terms of policy for the rest of the world right now.
No, Dr. Bogoch, all the people and the experts that we've spoken to in India and abroad are talking about its unpredictability, at the same time saying, do not worry. I want to ask you, what do you think is the big struggle with this strain, or any strain for that matter? The unpredictability of the new mutation, or do we have any actual quantifiable data on the basis of which governments are acting?
Well, I don't really think there's that much quantifiable data, to be honest. There's some weak observational data, and currently there are scientists in the UK and elsewhere around the world who are evaluating the data very closely and in an expedited manner to address those questions. But I don't think we have firm answers to any of those questions right now. So clearly, out of an abundance of caution, people are creating some policy to help perhaps protect their countries from importing this strain at this time.
Dr. Bagach, now again, the question that must have been asked to you also very often. Do existing vaccine candidates not factor in mutations? I've asked this of all the experts. What is your opinion?
Yeah, it's a very good point. And when you speak with virologists and vaccinologists, the vast majority of them believe that this will not impact the vaccine. And in fact, this is the part of the virus that has had this mutation is the part of the virus that the vaccine is really developed around. But it's, the vaccine will tend to have a more robust response to this part of the virus, not just a very, very focused response. So I think it's fair to say that I have to be careful with my words because no one knows the real answer to this, but it's very unlikely that this will impact how the vaccine will work. So I think the most plausible scenario at the end of the day is if this variant has any meaningful impact, it might be a more transmissible strain, but even that has to be determined. So still, we're in a period of a lot of unknown questions, and in that time period, it's likely best to just take a very cautious approach.
I want to ask you, and let me know if you know the answer. This is not the first of the mutations. Perhaps this is not going to be the last mutation of COVID-19. But why has there been greater alarm this time around? I mean, there were mutations in the past also.
I think that's a very poignant question because there have been other mutations that, quite frankly, they're different mutations, but they could have conferred a similar outcome. And this has happened now 2 other times before. It raised an eyebrow 2 other times before, but quite frankly, it never really mounted this type of response. I'm not entirely clear, to be honest, why this mutation has mounted this particular response, but it has. And I honestly don't think it's unwarranted. I think people should be careful. But every time the virus mutates, I don't think we should start to lock down and behave in this manner because it's going to continue to mutate. I think obviously we need to follow this. We need to be very careful about this. We need to have excellent genetic sequencing and access to data so that we can rapidly respond. But it is very interesting to see the degree of response here when, in fact, this has happened a couple of times before during the pandemic as well.
Dr. Isaac Bagach, thank you so much for joining us right here on NDTV.